And I love telling stories about Bixby. And as I look out on this group, so much of the history of Green Corn Festival is etched in so many of your faces. The Bixby Green Corn Festival, I've always considered it a community celebration. It started in 1948, 47 actually. These were the Bixby shipping sheds, and at one time the sheds were the largest employer, single employer in the Bixby area. In 1947, they shipped out over 200 boxcars of iced down corn. Now that's over 250 million ears of corn going to Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Kansas City. And that does not count all the semi-trucks and all the box trucks that went out with iced down corn. Bixby was one of the largest shipping points in the United States. And most of it went through the shipping sheds. Different growers or different buyers had their own shed. And they would, during the peak corn season, now they did other things, radishes, cantaloupes, all kinds of good stuff. But during the peak corn season, they would actually run 3 shifts, 24 hours, 7 days a week, trying to get the corn out on a timely basis. At the end of one of the years, 1946, I believe it was, one of the lower shippers was Clyde Miller. And Clyde and Alma decided to have a little celebration to say thank you to their employees. So they told them to go home, get their families, and come back the next day. They came back the next day. Clyde and Alma had got a whole bunch of ice cream and some cakes and everything. They brought it down, and all the kids were there, and they played games, brought their guitars and a couple of fiddles, and they played music and just visited, enjoyed, and celebrated such a great season. Now some of the other growers did too, but Clyde was one of the largest ones. And some of the other workers kind of drifted over from the other sheds. The next year they also had a great year. And you gotta realize that shipping sheds were also a joint venture with the downtown businessmen were also partial owners in the sheds. So they helped out the second year and supplied some of the things, and they said more growers joined in, and almost all of the shippers joined in the second year. By the third year, the celebration had grown so large that it was moved to City Park, which is now Charlie Young, downtown Tulsa, sponsored by the Bixby Chamber of Commerce, which was the local merchants, and various area organizations, churches and other things joined in, and it truly became a community celebration now. A celebration of not only a good harvest and a good community, but just enjoying each other. These pictures are from sponsored by the Bixby Chamber of Commerce from they started out, they had a parade. This was during the Korean War. You'll see our military was leading the parade. They had a Miss Bixby Corn Queen. And in case you don't recognize the young lady there, that is Boo Plummer Roberts. Some of you will recognize her. Not know her, she was a great lady. But she was Miss Bixby Green Corn in either 49 or 50. In 1975, Jim Brown was the parade marshal, and his theory was, now this is the 50s, but he kind of picked up on there that if it moves, decorate it and put it in the parade.
Sounds good to me.
You know? So all the kids, this was for a small community, they must have had almost every church, almost every organization, every scout group, had a float, and then the kids would decorate their bicycles and come along, and of course they had horse groups from everywhere. They also had the Bixby Band, and over the next few years they had bands from other communities. And if you're trying to figure this out, this is Scott's. If you're trying to orient yourself. They had contests, all kinds of contests. These were the women, the winners in the women's nail driving contest.
We need to bring that back.
Yeah.
Oh, we had that last year, the year
He
before.
won that a
We
couple
always
years
did.
ago.
Jackie's a Hulu.
And I think we've revived this one. 1952, this is Mrs. Garrett giving the awards out for the baby contest, which was actually sponsored by the Rebeccas that year. I've always said that was a brave person that would get up there and pick one child. Whoa! And this will give you a little idea. It was not unusual to have 3,000 to 5,000 people in downtown, and they would build the old flagpole. And they had wrestling matches there, and those awards were being awarded from there. And this is facing back towards Dawes. In 1954.
We've been there, done that.
Yeah, they've done that.
Last year.
Things.
Yeah, we
That's
done
the
that
thing
last
about
year.
history, is things repeat.
That's right.
The festival had over 5,000 people and over 110-degree temperatures. The next year, the merchants got together and said, guys, July is too hot, because up until then it was in July, the true corn season. And they were like, ah. So they decided to switch it. In 1955, they went to the Garden Spot Day. Basically the same celebration, but they renamed it, which had been a title given to Bixby back it was in the editorials back in 1905. It was then called the Garden Spot of Indian Territory. And later it became the Garden Spot of Oklahoma. And several years later, we actually never been able to find the exact year, but it was given to us by our official title by the state of Oklahoma.